Welcome back to Rooted Provider. I'm Rebecca Maddie, and this is a episode for providers, for those that are working in healthcare, to connect with one another and just have these open conversations for things that I've noticed can be challenging in the healthcare field from my perspective, as well as the perspective of members in my collective called Grow Beyond Collective. And just a quick plug for Grow Beyond Collective. It is a community, a virtual community for healthcare providers to connect together, to learn and collaborate. And we'd love to have your voice at the table. If you are ever interested in joining a meeting, please send me a DM and I will be happy to invite you to one of our meetings. Today is a really important topic that I want to discuss and is challenging for me at the same time. And so this month in the collective, we are actually having a guest speaker on the topic, and because I felt like this was something that just was far enough outside my realm of comfort to lead the discussion on. However, I do think it is something that needs to be discussed and normalized, and that is money. So the money conversation is always challenging depending on how you were raised or what your relationship with money has been. It doesn't have to be challenging though. And it's something we can normalize talking about, especially in the healthcare field. As providers, we're kind of trained to focus on the needs of others, which often makes advocating for our own needs, especially that in the realm of monetary compensation, feel almost selfish or unclinical. And it's important that we start to shift that narrative. And today I'm just going to touch a little bit upon negotiating your contract as you enter the field of healthcare or you're changing jobs. And it's important to shift that mindset about negotiation. That negotiation isn't a confrontation. It's really a foundation for a sustainable career, especially if you are feeling stressed about your mortgage or your kids' childcare. You can't show up fully for your patients if those things are happening in the background for you. And so it's important to think about, how can I negotiate my salary or my income in a way that's going to make my career more sustainable? So let's think through finding clarity from those arbitrary numbers that we might throw out there because they feel good or because we Googled it. So most people pick a salary, goal based on what maybe their peers make or a round number that sounds good. I know I've been in that boat before, and I want you to challenge you to do the hard math on this one. So thinking about, what do you need to cover your lifestyle? What is kind of like that survival number? And then take it, once you've figured that out, either with your partner, if you have one, or other family members, if you are supporting others, what is that hard number you need week to week, month to month, annually, that's going to help you survive and feel comfortable? The next step after figuring out what that survival number is to figure out what your growth number is. What would allow you to invest in your future, in your kids' future, rest properly, and avoid burnout? When you walk into a negotiation, you want to know exactly not only what is your survival number, this is what I need to make rent each month and to pay the bills, but also what's going to allow me to expand and really feel fulfilled. When you want to know exactly what that number is so that your confidence is really rooted in that reality and not in the guesswork. So you also, if there is maybe no room in the hard number of what your salary is going to be, your employer maybe can't hit that salary number, the conversation can shift. It just can pivot. It doesn't need to end there. We can then look at the total compensation through the lens of like your monthly budget and the package that you are getting as an employee. So you can think about, is a lower salary offset by the healthcare premiums? Or is there a health reimbursement account that is going to be funded through your employer? So what does that package look like, and what can you take away from maybe your monthly budget that is now going to be paid for by your employment package? The next thing you want to think about too is retirement. Is there going to be a percentage match of what you put in for retirement from your employer? I mean, that's essentially free money for your future, investing in your future. So can you think about what that number is going to look like versus what your monthly investment needs to look like for your retirement? Then you can take it another step and think about kind of those intangibles that may be offered in your employment package, including if you have a CEU budget or a wellness budget that your employer is willing to fund. Is there a gym that they fund the membership for? What does the PTO look like? And what do your holidays look like? And those are going to be things that also help prevent that burnout and help fuel your learning, your wellness, and your ability to take time for yourself. And there is high value in those things as well. So beyond just that hard salary number, what do those other benefits look like in the full employment package? Finally, I want you to think about that a contract is really that two-way street. So by asking for what you need, you're already teaching your employer or potential employer how to really value your experience, and you're really setting the stage for that long-term relationship of open communication and allowing them to recognize that you are here for the long haul and you are here to be committed, but that commitment also means that you need to have that sustainability coming from them as an employer. So this week, even if you're not necessarily looking for a new job or looking for a shift in employment, I just want you to sit down with your actual expenses, your actual dreams, your numbers, and don't look at what the market says or what Google says just yet, and look at what your life requires you to feel supported. And once you have that number, ask yourself, am I afraid to ask for this because I don't think I'm worth it, or because I'm afraid of being seen, or am I worried that the answer is going to just be no? What we really have to do to challenge ourselves is to start being brave in our business lives, in our professional role, in order to advocate for ourselves. And that's only going to benefit one another if we are able to have an employment experience that is fulfilling and also serves the values and the things that are important to us outside of the clinic. So I am also just I'll leave you with that. Do some reflection in that area. Find some resources, maybe in financial coaching if you're feeling overwhelmed with figuring out what your numbers are, survival numbers, growth numbers, what even is a retirement account. There are some really wonderful people out there that are ready to help in the healthcare field. And then there's just a couple of books that I wanted to recommend. So one of them is about negotiation, and that's called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. It's a really effective tool for healthcare providers who want to maybe negotiate firmly, but stay rooted in that kind approach. The Financial Feminist is a podcast as well as a book, and I recommend using some of her negotiation tips to help you root your negotiation in your values, as well as recognizing what your worth is, which makes calculating that growth number even more pertinent. And then finally, another book that I really like is called Getting to Yes, and that has some great tips about negotiation and trying to find that middle ground between you and whoever you are trying to negotiate with. So those are just a couple of books that I recommend trying out. But like I said, taking some time to reflect, figuring out your numbers, bringing in the help and support you might need to figure out what those numbers are, both survival and growth numbers, is going to be a really critical first step in rooting your negotiation for your salary in what is true for you rather than what you're being told is your worth by some external entity. So I just want to throw that out there. I want to start the conversation, and I would love to hear your thoughts. Have you worked on negotiating a salary in the past or an employment package? And how did that feel? Did it feel challenging at first, and then did you feel empowered? Were you supported along the way? And what did that look like? Drop it in the comments. What has been your experience in negotiating employment contracts? Thank you again for joining me for Rooted Provider, and I look forward to connecting with you again in the future.